Yeah, no, just
Exactly. And now I'm going to start pulling out. And you see the opening getting bigger. So my right hand is really controlling everything. And my left hand is just supporting the outside wall. This wheel that I built was actually designed based on the one at Old Sturbridge Village. That one they built from a historical example called the Brooks wheel. Potter's wheels are something that were not really valued. They were frequently something that was done by a farmer in the off-season. And so this was a way to bring in extra money when there were no crops. It also gave them trade goods. So they may not necessarily pay money for something. They might say, I will give you one of my pottery bowls if you give me that metal ewer. And that's a system called barter, and it was in use for a very long time, and it's still in use. Yes, please do touch that clay. So this is basically a bowl. I'm just going to smooth it out a little bit. Get the extra water out from the inside. This is called a rib.
That looks mostly like.
Yep, it's pretty much done. I just need to clean up the outside a little bit.
And paint it if you want.
Yep. First it has to go into the kiln to be dried, and then I would paint it with what's called glaze, which is basically just powdered glass in water. And then it goes back into the kiln, and the powdered glass gets melted and forms the glazed skin over the entire piece. And depending on what kind of a kiln you're using, it could be anywhere from 24 hours to a few days. It could take several days to load because you want to make sure it's full so you're not wasting your fuel materials. And when it's all done, you have something that is hopefully beautiful, but definitely useful. That's an excellent question. How you get it off the wheel head? This is called the wheel head. Combination of things. First off, I need to clean up the bottom edge. So in this case, I'm actually going to spin the wheel a little bit in the opposite direction. And I'm going to take this tool and clean up a little bit here. And then I'm going to put a little bit of water back on it and use my cutoff tool, my wire tool, to pull some of the water underneath so it'll slide off.
And that cuts the bottom off of it.
Exactly. That cuts the bottom off, and then I can use this.
It's basically like an exact knife.
Kinda. A little bit bigger and a little bit finer. Let's move that out of the way. These are called pot lifts. Yep, and this is a tool specifically designed to get under the edge, slide it off, and I'm going to put it right there.
It might take a few years.
Well, it'll take a few days to dry, and then it would have to go in the kiln, and then I'd be able to glaze it. And actually, the type of clay I'm using is stoneware because it gets hard like rocks. That's why it was named.
Nice type.
And it's I don't really know as much about cement. I don't know about as much cement, but stoneware, one of the nice things about it is you don't necessarily have to glaze it on the outside. You should still glaze it on the inside. In our modern life, food safety is a little bit different now than it was at the time. But I could just put this in the kiln and be finished. And there's different techniques. There's something called a once fire, where you glaze it before the first firing. And that's usually done at what's called leather hard. If you think about a piece of leather, it's sort of stiff, but you can still move it a little bit. If you glaze it at that point and put it in the kiln, and you only have to fire it once. You don't want to wait until it's dry, because if you get it wet with the glaze, the whole thing falls apart.
Smile.
Putting large amounts of twist into the thread.
and you can spin it and get more roving and work it in, and that's what makes thread from wool roving. 1 mile approximately of thread per piece of garb. So women were spinning pretty constantly. They learned when they were 5 or so, and they would continue spinning the rest of their lives. Whenever you weren't doing anything else, and I'm including walking out to the fields, they would find these spindles. This is pewter. The originals were lead. This is elk antler, and this is deer antler. These were the things they were made of. They also made them of stone, glass, and ceramic. All of those broke when you dropped them, and it's a drop spindle, so things got dropped. This is a dragon. They're relatively rare because Christians didn't like dragons because of things in the Bible. So this was a pre-Christian find from York, Viking Jorvik in England. This is in the gripping beast style, and it was originally, I carved the model in wood, so I would have a hard model to do clay and sand casting from the hard model. Both clay and sand casting, I believe, were period. I know clay is. There's a clay, wet clay mold over here with the piece that I made. This would not be castable until it's dried and fired, but after that you can cast multiple pieces in there by simply closing up the edges with the clay. So it's called a 2-part Viking mold. The rest of the things here. This is a tool. It is called a pinner's bone, and what you do is you find a little grooves, wherever they happen to be, put a pin in it, and then file a cross. When you do that and you turn the pin as you go, and you're filing consistently flat using the bone as a guide, you'll get a nice consistent pin. That works well. This is one of my bronze needles. This bronze needle sews through leather. Leather, needle, unbent needle. Nobody else's bronze needles do that.
You think you're getting lost? I think again.
And style, he's making those rough edges, woodcut.
I'm not using an authentic spindle.
And this, unlike
I'm using a modern spindle. Because it works very well.
one deep black is very hard. Brown, russet.
Boy, is there screaming over there.
Red comes from beauty.
You can put it then on a spindle, on a swift or a knitting body. And then you would hang it, then you would wash it, hang it up to dry, dye it perhaps if you hadn't dyed it already. And then you would work the loom.
See the loom, Alex? Look.
This is a modern warping board.
This is how you make stuff.
In the Middle Ages, especially the early Middle Ages, they would start with a tablet woven border, about 4 tablets, and the warp would actually be the weft of your tablet woven border. So you would have this firm edge that would then be sewn on to your warp-weighted loom. Once you had your loom, you would set up your threading. First you would, if you weren't working with a warp-weighted loom, you would of course have to tie your warp onto the loom. And see that cross right there?
Yes.
That's very important. That cross is duplicated right here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And normally I would weave without that cross where it is, but it's very, very descriptive of how you then go. So you then thread, each thread through one eye on a pedal, and each pedal is on a separate harness.
Oh yeah.
Bunches of pedals on each harness. They are set up in 3 different patterns on this thing. You have the straight twill, which when it is beaten evenly, just goes in a 45-degree angle if it is done right. This is a reverse twill, which is much the same except it goes back and forth. And this is called a bird's eye twill, which if you look at some of the patterns,
Oh, yeah.
actually looks like a bird's eye.
Right?
Oh yeah.
In order to weave, you have to, in this particular loom, lift your harness, put your thread between the upper and lower sheds at an angle, because if you put it too close, it will pull in, and then you beat it in place. So you change your shed, which locks the thread in place.
The other way.
Go back, beat it in place,
Very cool.
and you continue on in this vein. One of the hardest things for people to realize, especially as they are beginning, is that the sequence that I am using is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is actually 4, which is the 4th harness and the 1st harness lifted, which are the 4 possible combinations: 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4,
That
4,
way,
1.
okay.
You have many other possible combinations, of course, and that you only, with a loom of this sort, you can do any 1, you can do any 2, you can do any 3, and still get a shed between an upper and lower thread.
Very interesting.
And if the kids had hung around, I would have let them weave.
Right? He doesn't want to